Hello guys, thank you so much for coming back to watch another video on my channel. Today's video is going to be slightly different. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Silent Hill 2, and how it has changed the horror gaming industry when it came out in 2001. So I'm going to give you a disclaimer before I begin this video that as I'm talking about Silent Hill 2, and this game is quite serious, it deals with a serious subject, so I'm going to be talking about them in the video and use a bit strong language, so do keep that in mind while you're watching this video. And as always, I ask you guys, if you do like my content, what I've put it on my YouTube channel, and if you do like this video, do make sure to stick around and subscribe to my channel so I can make more of these videos for you guys. So without wasting any time, let's begin our video. The horror gaming business was already growing and was highly profitable in the 1990s, thanks to titles like Clock Tower, Alone in the Dark, and Doom, which set the way for the upcoming horror games. Then with the release of Resident Evil 1, Capcom arrived and refined the survival horror subgenre for the horror gaming industry. After that, Capcom followed up with another hit title, Resident Evil 2, which was released in 1998. At the time, Konami already had a decent number of horror-themed games in the form of Castlevania titles, but they didn't really break into the horror gaming industry until they made a decision to assemble an internal team called Team Silent and released their first proper horror game in the form of Silent Hill 1. Silent Hill 1 was an innovative psychological horror game with distinctive, disturbing imagery, symbolism, and even the music that was unlike anything we've heard in the previous horror games. This has introduced a more individualized terror with a new, fresh taste. Now, psychological horror is a subgenre of horror with a particular focus on mental, emotional, and psychological states to frighten and disturb and to unsettle its audience. This was a perfect change that was needed in the horror gaming industry because prior to this subgenre, people were already used to the games where you have a very strong protagonist who knows how to take care in a dire situation or learn how to survive over time with the tools provided in the confined environment. But this wasn't the case with Silent Hill 1. Yes, from a gameplay standpoint, Silent Hill 1 does not stray much from the horror gameplay paradigm and mechanics which were created from a prior Resident Evil titles. But if you look inside this game, you will grasp what the game is attempting to portray through its symbolism.
Were you ringing that bell?
I've been expecting you. It was foretold by gyromancy.
You will feel uneasy and claustrophobic, and due to the technical choices, the Silent Hill town was perpetually shrouded in heavy fog, which becomes an iconic characteristics for this franchise. Harry Mason, your protagonist, is your average man who's searching for his missing daughter Cheryl in the town of Silent Hill. And there is this demonic nature which you can observe through the visuals and listen to it through its audio, which was brilliantly captured by Akira Yamaoka. This town is the main antagonist of this game. You feel you are surrounded in this creepy town and will make you feel at edge on every step of your way. Silent Hill 1 was a successful game for Konami, and while it dealt with the psychological horror elements, it wasn't until Silent Hill 2 that the game delves deeper into the psychological terror of Silent Hill. This time around, you are observing Silent Hill through the eyes of James Sunderland, who is in search of his deceased wife after having received a letter from her informing him that she's waiting for him there in the town of Silent Hill.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
Now, Silent Hill 2 displays the narrative through its symbolism and illusion which is present throughout the entirety of this game. Silent Hill is a metaphorical representation of a person's personal nightmare. This is visible in all games because each character has their own vision of the other world. And it is Silent Hill 2 where it is portrayed visually through its art and symbolism. We actually get to discover the nature of this town through the other world concept. The other world, also occasionally referred to as the other side, alternative world, or reverse side, which is parallel to the reality. It may be viewed as parallel or non-parallel plane of existence, although the other world is an abstract concept which has never been officially or completely defined. However, in the case of Silent Hill 2, it is portrayed as the characters in a horror and a depiction of their mind. Every creature in the other world is a representation of the character's specific horror or fears or desires. Therefore, every character you meet in Silent Hill 2 is seen a different version of Silent Hill while fighting their own demons. Psychological horror usually aims to create discomfort or dread by exposing common universal psychological and emotional vulnerabilities, by revealing the darker parts of the human psyche that most people may repress or deny. Silent Hill 2 has characters who are facing their own trial with their own nightmares, and we get to get a glimpse of each of their Silent Hills throughout the game. Angela, who we meet early on in the game, is a victim of her brother and father's sexual abuse, and this is clearly shown when she has her first interaction with James. You can see Angela is a bit reserved and introverted, and due to the previous abuse, she felt uncomfortable being exposed, which is common among victims of abuse. You can clearly see how she feels threatened when James tried to approach her.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Even the boss fight we have in Angela's other world, this creature we fight, which is portrayed as Angela's father, Thomas. The game briefly reveals her Silent Hill to us, which is more of a sexual in nature with disturbing imagery through fleshy walls. Furthermore, we also see an element of fire that is a manifestation of Angela's psychological state, that she has been living in this hell due to her past abuse. It also displays that her attempt of suicide and how much she hates herself, as she refers to herself as an ugly thing, and she wants everything to be burned away, including part of herself.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too. For me, it's always like this.
Then we meet Eddie, an insecure, mentally disturbed, and a severely bullied young man who is self-conscious about his weight, and due to his troubled past, he's drawn to Silent Hill. We witness Eddie slowly lose his sanity over time and completely lose his mind when we see him at the end of Labyrinth as one of the antagonists of this game.
What do you mean, just for that?
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
Oh yeah? Why not? Till now I always let people walk all over me. Just like that stupid dog. He had it coming too.
His Silent Hill is briefly displayed as a cold and bleak place, with meat hanging from the meat hooks. Coldness either represents his disconnect from the world, or either how he fell from the world when he was bullied. The concept of meat represents the nature and the desire of how much he loves to eat, which led to him being overweight and being bullied. It also projects that the world sees Eddie as just an excessive meat with no sympathy towards him. Laura, a young orphan girl who is also in the search of Mary. She is the only innocent character in the game who doesn't have any dark past or hold any darkness in her heart. which is why she doesn't see any monsters compared to the other characters in the game.
This is no place for a kid. There are all sorts of strange things around here. I can't believe you haven't even gotten a scratch on you.
Why should I?
In the Silent Hill 2, we get to meet Laura throughout the different scenarios in the game. It is implied that Laura sees Mary as a mother figure and knew Mary a year prior to the events of Silent Hill 2. Mary wanted James to adopt her, and if you get to the leave ending by the end of the game, you get to see that she walks away with James, implying he fulfilled Mary's wish. These characters are written so well, and everything they say has a meaning behind it. Now the main Silent Hill town at the majority of the game is actually a representation of James' psyche. Otherworld by James is dark, depressing and sad, with gloomy vibe. In the early exploration of the Silent Hill, the street and halls are abandoned as to show loneliness to what James Sunderland feels. As the game proceeds, the creatures started to become more apparent when James tried to steer away from the reality of his actions. His desires started to take the forms of these creatures. As the time went by, James' world started to become more darker, with more twists for him to unravel. James' world changes and shifts as he comes closer to the realization of the actions committed by him. It befits to portray the harsh reality of accepting the guilt and coming to terms that James actually killed Mary. Once the game reveals the truth, the world actually drowns in sorrow in the form of symbolism in front of James when you come into the closure of the game. There's a debate on the internet which reflects that the water ending is the actual ending, which metaphorically befits James' story.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill.
James' denial and desire created two characters in the game, Pyramid Head and Maria. Pyramid Head was created from his denial as an executioner to punish James for what he did and make James to come to reality for his action. He chases James throughout the game and finally leads him to his destination. Originally, Ito wanted to create a monster with a hidden face, but become unhappy with this concept and design. So he decided to give a triangle mask. And according to Ito, the triangle sharp right and acute angle suggests the possibility of pain. He resembles a pale, muscular man covered with white, blood-soaked robe, reminiscent of a butcher with a giant knife. Pyramid Head acts as a judgment personified, a dark butcher, and James' masochistic delusion, which punishes him for Mary's death. Therefore, when finally James comes to the realization of his actions, it is there where he commits suicide and vanishes away. Maria is a character born from James' wish.
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made.
She was manifested through his denial of Mary's death and a desire of how he wished to see Mary. Physically, Mary and Maria have the same face and voice according to James, but their hair and clothes are different. Maria carries this charisma and she's very extroverted towards James, which even overwhelms him when he meets her at Rosewater Park. Personality is more sexually extroverted than Mary's, which is reflected in her apparel and how she desired to be the perfect wife for James. Maria was likely constructed by a combination of James' delusion, as it is clearly evident through the style story Born from a Wish. Maria is a complex character, and even the way she has been portrayed in the game. However, she mostly serves as the main antagonist of this game, and therefore James has a choice to make at the end of the game to either see Mary or Maria as the final main antagonist.
Mary is dead. You killed her.
Maria? It's you. But I don't need you anymore.
Silent Hill 2 is a game which was released in 2001. However, this game was ahead of its time. Silent Hill 2 was a pinnacle point for the Silent Hill franchise, as everything has a deeper meaning to it. It clearly portrays its narrative through symbolism and art, which is unlike anything we have seen. Still to this day, I personally haven't been able to feel from a game as I did with Silent Hill 2. Everything in this game has a meaning to it, from narrative to art design to the music to the characters. Nothing ever feels out of place. This game proves that video games can deal with the serious topics and teaches that sometimes monsters within ourselves are more dangerous than the ones outside. This game has catapulted the psychological genre and become an inspiration for many games to come. We're lucky enough to see a remake of this game, which is coming out soon. However, it'll be very hard to capture the same magic again. Silent Hill 2 is one of those gems which will be remembered forever in the horror gaming industry. What do you guys think? Do you agree with the points I've raised in this video, and do you like the structure of the video I've made? And if you did, please do let me know in the comment section down below in this video. So that's it for the video, guys. Do make sure to check my next video, which I'll be uploading very soon. Until then, look after yourself. Have a good one.